Little George and Chris were eager to help their grandmother on the farm while their grandfather was recovering in a hospital. When they heard a strange rustling in the middle of the farm, they couldn't resist following the noise. Thank goodness they did. "Mom, are you crying?" Chris could clearly see the reflection of his mother's eyes welling up in the rearview mirror. "Don't cry, Mom. If you cry, we'll cry." George was almost in tears. "I'm not crying, my sweet boys," Lydia composed herself. "I'm just a little sad I'm not going to see you for 10 days. We're going to miss you too, Mom, but don't worry. 10 days will fly by and we'll be back home in no time." "Will time really fly by? I was looking forward to a fun stay at Grandma and Grandpa's. Are you telling me we won't have enough time to play with the chickens and goats after we've cleaned up the farm?" George crossed his arms and made a grumpy face looking out the window. "Of course you can play with the chickens and goats, darling, to your heart's content," Lydia reassured her younger boy. "But promise me again that you'll be on your best behavior," the kid's mother demanded. "We'll be on our best behavior, Mom. We help Grandma, pray for Grandpa to get better at the hospital and come home soon, and be honest children." Chris tried to reassure his mother with a cute, innocent tone. "Yes, Mom, and we'll call you every day so you can kiss us nighty-night on the phone. There you are, my two little helpers. Come here, boys." The grandmother almost snatched the children into her arms, holding onto them and swaying in sheer joy and excitement. Lydia hugged her sons and her mother before leaving. "Mom, can you give me a call if you or the boys need absolutely anything, okay?" After watching their mother drive away into the horizon, the boys turned to their grandma. "Now, Grandma, tell us what to do on the farm today." The old woman smiled as she dipped her sore feet in a tub of warm water. "The fact that you're so eager to help me is sweet enough, darlings. Consider myself helped." "No way! You can't do everything by yourself, and look, your eyes look dull and small like you haven't slept in days. Besides, we promised Grandpa we'd help out here." "Farm work," little George said after stuffing his mouth with corn puffs, "is not all that easy. Grandpa taught us how to do it. We can help you, at least until Grandpa returns home after his back heals and you and Grandpa can hire a new helper." The boy's grandmother was quietly proud of her two grandsons. They'd grown up in the city, leaving an easy and protected life with their deservingly successful parents, but they still kept in touch with their roots. They still valued the joy of getting their hands dirty on a farm, and most of all, they still showed up for their grandparents. "Okay, kids, your task for the next hour," Sandra said, looking at the watch, "is to go out to the farm and make a list of 5 things that need cleaning. I want to see how keenly you observe things, and when you hear me shout out to you, come running back. It means your favorite pie is ready." The boys high-fived each other and proceeded to the farm. "Chris, this way!" George was still skipping around the farm even though he and his brother had been walking around for the better part of an hour. "Hold on, George, I'm coming!" Chris stopped to take a few deep breaths and take a few gulps of water from his flask. Chris followed George towards a tiny old shed in the center of the farm. It looked dusty like nobody had been there in the past few weeks. The boys casually looked around the space until they heard rustling sounds coming from inside the shed. "Someone else is here," Chris whispered and widened his eyes to alert his brother. It was that rustling again. As the brothers tiptoed towards the strange sound, something else shook them with fear. They saw a shadow speeding from one wall to the other, and then it disappeared. Even Chris was trembling with fear. There was a pin-drop silence in the shed apart from the distant cawing sounds of crows. "Who's there?" George screamed. "If you're a ghost, go away. You're not supposed to be here during lunch hour, are you? Come back at night when we'll be sleeping." George's loud voice was interrupted by an even louder one. Was that a cat? They followed the sound, and behind a heap of hay cushioned on an old tire and hay and wrapped in a burrito of old clothes was a baby? The boys gasped in excitement but were clueless at the same time. "How do we stop this baby from crying? It must be hungry. Where's its mom?" George looked around. "It's your screaming that woke the baby up, you know," Chris said, trying to pat and soothe the baby. It had been less than 2 minutes and the boys were beginning to worry that the baby might never quiet down. "Baby, don't cry. If you cry, I cry." George couldn't control himself. Suddenly, from behind the shed door, a woman ran towards the baby. "Sally, sweetheart, Mama's here. Mama's so sorry she tried to leave you. I love you, darling." The boys watched in astonishment as the woman gently picked up the baby and held it close to her chest, and the baby stopped crying instantly. "That was amazing. How'd you do that?" "I'm the mother. Children are always soothed by their mother's presence." Denise kissed her baby and broke into tears, leaving the boy misty-eyed. "Who are you, and tell me why I shouldn't call the police right now?" A loud, familiar voice called out from behind the beautiful scene. "Grandma, shh, the baby's sleeping." "The baby?" Grandma walked closer, smiled at the baby, and closely observed the strange young woman from head to toe. The woman looked poor in tattered clothes and nothing to protect her blistered feet. "I've never seen this face before. How did she even get here? Sit down and tell me everything. Don't lie." Grandma could be very sweet and stern at the same time. The woman explained, "My name is Denise. I used to work on the neighboring farm, but after 7 years of working there, the owners fired me the moment they found out I was pregnant. So I had no job and barely anything to eat for several days. When Sally finally arrived, I struggled to look for work again. It's been a month since this angel was born, but I'm still in the same struggling place." Denise's tears wouldn't stop flowing. "I had seen you and your husband, daughter, and grandchildren on the farm every now and then. I could hear your laughter and sense you were kind people who always had plenty to eat and serve, so in a moment of weakness, I had decided to sneak in here and—" Denise couldn't bring herself to say it. "Give the child to us?" Sandra helped and stroked Denise's back downwards to calm her down. After a few seconds, Sandra stood in silence thinking about what she should do. "We'll figure something out, Denise, but first come on home. Have a slice of pie and a cup of coffee." Sandra and the boys had a hearty meal with their unexpected guest. Denise got up to do the dishes, and when the sound of clattering plates woke up baby Sally, it was Sandra who rushed to soothe her back to sleep. One look at the baby's peaceful face and little curled fingers, and Sandra had made a decision. "Denise, how would you like to be hired as farm help?" The poor woman almost dropped a bowl on the floor in surprise. "We'll pay you weekly and help you with a room where you can live, on one condition." Chris and George were looking at Sandra with as much anticipation as Denise. "I get to babysit this little bundle of joy." "Me too! Me 3!" Chris and George jumped in. The two boys had the best vacation of their lives that summer. In those 10 days, they helped their grandma set up a room for Sally and her mother, bringing out old toys and furniture. Grandma even arranged the crib that Chris and George would sleep in when they were little babies. Taking care of their new baby sister was a treat, and Denise and Grandma's special delicacies were cherry on top. A week later, when their grandfather recovered and was brought back home, he was surprised to see his beloved farm all clean and proper, but he was beyond ecstatic by the surprise new housemates. Lydia knew it would be hard for the boys to leave after barely 2 weeks of living at the farm, so she promised to bring the boys back to see Sally every weekend. And Lydia and the boys never broke that promise. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.